Exhausted servant crashes on CEO's sofa after 3 jobs, wakes up to a breakfast he'll never forget. "If you're going to sleep in my house," the CEO said, "you'd better wake up hungry." He didn't smile when he said it, but the smell of coffee and eggs told another story. After 3 back-to-back jobs, washing dishes, cleaning offices, unloading trucks, he was too tired to take the last bus home. 1 step, 2 steps, and he collapsed right onto the leather sofa in the corner of the CEO's private lounge. He expected to wake up to shouting, to humiliation, to being fired. Instead, he woke up to a breakfast that would change everything. If you find value in real stories told with clarity and truth that didn't spit him out. He didn't mean to fall asleep. He meant to sit down for 60 seconds, close his eyes, and count to 20 with his jacket over his chest. But exhaustion is a thief with soft hands. It steals without noise. 3 jobs: dish pit from 5 a.m. to 11, office janitor from noon to 5, night porter at the Hale Tower from 6 to whenever the lights finally died. By 2:13 a.m., the lights still hadn't. Eli set the crate of bottled water by the wall, wiped his palms on his cheap black slacks, and told himself, "Don't look at the leather sofa." The leather sofa looked back. It lived in the corner of the executive lounge, quiet, dark, expensive the way some people are born expensive. It had that finish only money understands, almost blue in the black. He sat because the marble floor was colder than hunger. He'd missed the last bus. Again. 1 minute, Eli thought. Just one. The city at 2:13 was a hush between storms. Elevators sighed. Air vents breathed. Somewhere a printer coughed into the dark and gave up. Eli didn't. His body did it for him. He folded into sleep like a letter no one meant to send. He woke to the smell of coffee. Not office coffee burned and bitter like apology. Real coffee. Dark, clean. The kind you taste behind your eyes. For a second, he didn't know where he was. Then the ceiling told him glass concrete money. The penthouse lounge. His heart kicked. He sat up too fast and the room tilted. The crate of water was still where he'd left it. His phone dead. His badge hanging crooked from his pocket like a white flag. He'd been here the whole night. A man could lose his job for less. On the low table in front of the sofa sat a tray he had not put there. 2 plates, stainless fork, and knife cloth. Napkin, a small dish of sliced peaches, bright as morning eggs, dusted with pepper toast, buttered from corner to corner. And a mug of coffee, heavy enough to warm both hands. Steam climbed in the quiet. The skyline beyond the glass was pale and soft, a bruise easing open. Eli stared at the tray for 5 full breaths, the way the poor stare at miracles in case they vanish out of embarrassment. There was a folded card propped against the mug. He reached for it with the care of someone touching glass that might remember being sand. Eat while it's hot. A.H. He knew those initials. Everyone in the building did. Adrian Hale, founder, CEO. Shark with a calendar. The man whose face lived in magazines and elevators and the minds of men who wished they were him. Eli's hand shook. Maybe it was a trick. A test. Some rich joke about charity you could post for likes. Maybe there were cameras, of course, there were cameras. There are always cameras where men like Adrian breathe. He didn't touch the food, good a voice said. You waited. Eli flinched so hard he almost knocked the tray. He turned. The man at the doorway of the lounge wasn't in a navy suit or a tie with a price. The printer. That didn't just print. The driver showed at 6:00 a.m. like a rumor that turned out true. Black sedan, clean back seat, a thermos that smelled like mercy. Eli didn't ask questions. He learned a long time ago that some kindnesses are like glass. Hold them wrong, and you cut yourself. By 10:55, he was in the Hale Tower garage badge, blinking green for once not red. At 11:03, the elevator opened on the executive floor and tasted like air conditioning and decisions. A receptionist with a voice like velvet lifted her eyes. "You're Mr. Eli." "Just Eli. Mr. Hale asked you to go straight in." Straight into what she didn't say. The office at the end of the hall was a horizon of glass and quiet. Adrian was already there, sleeves rolled a tie abandoned on the chair like a truce flag. On his desk sat a frame turned face down, a stack of contracts, and like a promise kept the photo from the copy room. Matthias, with the missing tooth grin, too big for his face backpack, trying to carry him. Adrian slid it across. "I laminated it," he said. "Pocket-proof, backpack-proof, school-year proof. You didn't have to." "I did," Adrian cut in gentle but final. "You said printer. I heard problem." He nodded toward a second tray. Not breakfast exactly, more like its echo-cut fruit, a clean sandwich, a small folded note. "You can't pour from empty. A.H." Eli didn't know what to do with a world that wrote notes back. "Eat," Adrian said. "Then we go upstairs." "Upstairs from this." Adrian's mouth tilted. 30 floors isn't up, it's in. At 11:40, they slipped into a ward dressed as a meeting. Conference room C was all glass and teeth. 12 board members in tailored armor. A numbers deck bright enough to blind someone who'd slept on a sofa. A woman in charcoal, same as the lounge, sat near the head of the table. CFO, Eli guessed. Her eyes flicked to him, filed him, moved on. The chair cleared his throat. "Mr. Hale, we appreciate your punctuality. Shall we proceed?" "Proceed," Adrian said, taking the only seat that didn't creak with ego. Slides began. Cost curves, burn rates, a red line that looked like a wound that needed a body to heal it. "Which brings us to workforce optimization," the CFO said smoothly. "Night operations are an obvious lever. Automation has reduced dependency by 23%. We propose consolidating crews and outsourcing janitorial to a third-party vendor in Q3. She clicked. A new slide, a list. Eli didn't breathe. You learn to read danger by its font. This one was Arial narrow, small polite. The kind you use when you want the blood to look less red. The chair steepled his fingers. "Mr. Hale." Adrian didn't answer. He looked at the slide like it had insulted his mother. "Before we cut work," he said, "I'd like the room to meet it." He turned, found Eli with a glance, and did the unthinkable. The page that wouldn't print. The HR reps left the manila envelope on the desk like it might bite. Eli didn't touch it. Not yet. He stared at the door after they left, waiting for Adrian to sweep in with some sharp line that would slice the whole thing apart. The clock on the wall told him the meeting downstairs still had 20 minutes to run. That's when he heard it, the printer, again. Not the slow measured rhythm of a quarterly report, but the frantic staccato of someone feeding it more than it wanted. The sound came from the copy room down the hall. Eli stepped out, keeping his steps quiet, the way night shift men learn how to move like you don't belong so you don't get noticed. The copy room was empty except for the machine. It was spitting out pages face down into the tray, each stamped with a header, "Proposed Reduction. Confidential." The first page in the stack wasn't his name, but the third was. And the fourth. And the fifth. They were printed in batches, different floors, different crews, but every third page seemed to be someone from night operations. People he knew. People who knew the building's veins in the dark. At the bottom of each page, small print, generated by HRIS Rules Engine, reviewed by CFO's office. The Rules Engine, The same automatic list Adrian had called out. Eli picked up the top page, heart thudding like it was trying to get out. "Careful with that," a voice said from the doorway. He turned. The charcoal suit woman leaned against the frame, arms folded. "No pen this time." "You're not supposed to be in here," she said, but it didn't sound like she meant it. "I could say the same," he said. "This is my building too," she replied. He gestured with the page. "These are all night crew. Patterns happen. They don't just happen." Her mouth did a thing between a smile and a wince. "What do you think I do for a living?" "I think," Eli said slowly, "you make problems look like math." Silence. The printer kept working, like it didn't care who heard. She stepped inside, lowered her voice. "You weren't supposed to be in the meeting. Adrian brought me." "That was a mistake." "For you," he asked. "For the plan." Eli put the page down on the tray. "Tell me something. This rules engine, who writes the rules?" She didn't answer. "That's what I thought." The printer jammed a sharp chirp that broke the air. She moved past him, hit a release latch, and cleared the feed with the ease of someone who knew the machine better than the people it served. "You could get yourself in trouble," she said, without looking at him. "I'm already on the list," he said. That stopped her. She looked at him, studied his face like she was memorizing it. "Go back to the lounge," she said finally. "If you're still here when the board comes up, this gets messier. Messier for me. For everyone." Eli walked back slow. He'd seen enough power games to know when a piece was being moved. The vote that wouldn't land. The conference room felt different the second time. No slideshow humming at the wall. No polite small talk to dull the edges. Just 12 board members, 2 legal counsels, the CFO in charcoal, and a stack of paper that might decide whose rent got paid this month. Eli followed Adrian in the maintenance folder under one arm. Nobody said it out loud, but you could feel it, the "what's he doing back in here" that hovered in the air like cheap perfume. The chair didn't waste time. "Mr. Hale, as requested, we've allowed your witness back into the room. However, the matter before us is urgent. Shall we proceed?" "Proceed," Adrian said, settling into his chair like he had all day. The CFO rose first. "In light of the financial projections," she began, "our office recommends adoption of the proposed reduction list with minor amendments to address." "Stop," Adrian said. The word landed like a dropped wrench. "Before you cut people, you're going to see what they do," he said. The CFO's eyes narrowed. "We've been over." "Not like this," Adrian cut in. He gestured at Eli. "Show them." Eli stepped forward, placed the maintenance folder on the table, and flipped it open. The first page, a photograph of a cracked heat exchanger valve in sub-basement 3. This, Eli said, was 3 hours from blowing steam hot enough to skin a man alive. "We caught it on a Tuesday night in July. If it had gone, this tower would have been shut down for 48 hours. That's $4 million in lost lease revenue." He turned the page. A wiring panel melted at one corner. "Thursday in October. Fire hazard. Caught by Nita. She's on your list too." Turn. A photo of a flooded mechanical room ankle deep. "That was last month. Broken sump pump. I rigged a bypass until we could replace it. If I hadn't, you'd be explaining to tenants why their server rooms smell like mildew." The chair leaned back, steepling his fingers. "Mr. Eli," he said evenly, "while we appreciate the colorful imagery, our decision must be based on sustained cost savings, not isolated." "These aren't isolated," Eli said before he could stop himself. "They happen because you've been running crews skeleton thin. The only reason they haven't hit your precious quarterly reports is because people like us fix them before you even notice." A low murmur passed around the table. The CFO tapped her pen. "With respect, these events are undocumented in our risk logs." Because your risk logs don't cover the hours when we're here, Eli shot back. When the building breathes and no one's around to hear it. Adrian let the silence stretch, then leaned forward. This isn't sentiment, he said. It's operational reality. You cut these people, you inherit their ghosts. And trust me, ghosts are expensive. He glanced at Eli. Show them the last one. Eli hesitated, then slid the laminated photo of Matthias onto the table. This, he said quietly, is why I work 3 jobs. And this building. It's the only one of them that doesn't treat me like I'm replaceable. It wasn't in the maintenance log. It wasn't in any slide deck. But it landed the offer that wasn't on the table. They didn't go back to Adrian's office. Instead, Adrian led Eli through a service stairwell down 2 flights and into a small corner of the tower. Eli had never seen a space tucked behind the freight elevator, the air thick with the scent of oil and old paint. In the center, a battered steel desk, 2 chairs, and a corkboard peppered with faded Polaroids. Men and women in coveralls, smiling in bad light. Some faces Eli recognized from the list in the copy room. Some from nowhere but the hallways of memory. Adrian sat gesturing for Eli to take the other chair. I told you I needed someone who knows the weight of a night, he said. I wasn't making conversation. Eli eased down. You're not exactly known for running sentimental tours. This isn't sentiment, Adrian said. It's succession planning. He leaned forward. The head of night operations is retiring in 3 months. Officially, they're not replacing him, just merging the role into facilities management under daytime control. And unofficially, Eli asked, unofficially, Adrian said, I want you in that chair before they even realize it's been filled. Eli blinked. Me, I'm not. You're exactly what I need, Adrian cut in. You know every shortcut in this building, and more importantly, every problem they pretend doesn't exist. You've been running the night for free. I'm just giving you the title and the pay. That's a nice pitch, Eli said slowly. What's the catch? Adrian's eyes didn't flinch. The catch is that the board will hate it. You're not on their list of acceptable candidates. You don't have a facilities degree. You don't own a single tie. And if they can't block the hire, they'll try to make you fail. Eli sat back, the weight of it pressing harder than the offer itself. It's one thing to keep my job, he said. It's another to put a target on my back big enough to see from space. They'll come for you either way, Adrian said. Difference is the door that didn't open for anyone. Eli didn't sleep that night. He didn't even try. He sat at the kitchen table, the laminated photo of Matthias face up beside a chipped mug of coffee gone cold. 2 piles in his head, one with safety predictability, 3 jobs, and no room to breathe. The other with a single job, more money than he'd ever seen, and a target big enough for the whole board to aim at. By sunrise, he knew. At 10:55 a.m., he was back in Adrian's office. The man barely looked up from his screen. Well, I'll take it, Eli said. No smile, no handshake, just a curt nod as if he'd been expecting the answer all along. Good, Adrian said, standing. Then it's time you saw what you're inheriting. They took the freight elevator down. Past the sub-basements Eli knew. Past the maintenance floors even security avoided. To a landing with no label on the panel. The doors opened to stale, heavy air, concrete walls. Dust that had been waiting decades to be disturbed. At the far end of the corridor stood a steel door the color of gunmetal. No keypad, no handle. Just an inset keyhole that looked older than the tower itself. Adrian reached into his jacket and pulled out a brass key worn smooth at the edges. My father told me never to open this, he said, which is exactly why I'm opening it now. The lock turned with a sound that was more sigh than click. The door swung inward, and the air that came out was cold, not just in temperature, but in the way it carried memory. Inside a narrow room lined with metal shelving, folders, ledgers, Polaroids curling at the edges. And in the center, under a shroud of dust, a single battered wooden desk. Adrian stepped inside, motioning for Eli to follow. This is where my father kept what he didn't want the board or the city to see, he said. Every safety report, every accident, every payout, all buried down here instead of being dealt with. He pulled a box from the shelf, set it on the desk, and opened it. Inside, photos of twisted steel, collapsed scaffolding, a charred breaker panel. Each clipped to a report marked Incident. Confidential. These are just from the first 5 years of the building's life, Adrian said. Half of them were blamed on human error. Most of those humans were night crew. Eli's stomach tightened. And the other half. Adrian met his eyes. Cost-cutting. He flipped open another file. A grainy black and white. The memo that erased. By the time Eli made it back to the executive floor, the printer was quiet. But the copy room wasn't empty. The CFO in charcoal stood at the counter, stacking freshly printed pages into neat piles. Her phone was on speaker, a clipped voice coming through. Yes, the restructure eliminates the separate night ops designation, the voice said. Everything merges under daytime facilities. No special positions. No exemptions. Understood, she replied, sliding the stacks into folders. Send me the clean version for board review. Eli didn't move. She looked up, saw him, and didn't flinch. You're early, she said. For what? For learning how this place actually works. She tapped one of the folders. This is what wins. Not photos, not speeches, paperwork. You make it real here, and it becomes real everywhere else. Eli stepped closer. You're trying to erase the role before I even start. Her mouth curved, half smile, half warning. I'm preventing Adrian from turning you into a pawn in his war with the board. You think that offer was about you. You're just leverage. Replaceable leverage. You don't know me. I know enough, she said. I know you've got a son. I know you work yourself into the ground. I know you can't afford to lose this job, which means you'll dance to whatever tune Adrian plays until it gets you cut. She picked up one page and held it between two fingers. Do you know what this is? Eli didn't answer. It's your name, she said. Gone. One delete key, and you disappear like you were never here. She dropped the page back on the pile. You can hate me for it, but I'm the only one telling you the truth. Something shifted in Eli then. Not anger, not fear. Something colder. You think deleting me from paper deletes me from the building, he said. It doesn't. You can't erase the guy who knows where the breaker is when the lights go out. Her eyes narrowed. Try me. Adrian's voice cut in from the doorway. Trying you is the problem, Marlowe. The CFO straightened folders, still in her hand. Just doing my job. Your job, Adrian said, is keeping the building solvent, not playing God with its people. This is strategy, not divinity, she replied. You can't protect him forever. Adrian stepped inside, took one of the folders from her hand, and leafed through it. This isn't strategy, he said. This is history repeating itself, and I'm done watching that. Her gaze flicked between them. You think you've won something down in that basement, she said. All you've got is dust and dead men. The board doesn't care. Then we make them care, Adrian said. She brushed past him toward the door heels, sharp against the tile. At the threshold, she paused, looking back at Eli. When you're ready to survive instead of perform, you know where to find me. And then she was gone. Adrian set the folder on the counter. They'll come harder now, he said. I'm used to hard, Eli said. What I'm not used to is someone trying to erase me while I'm still standing. Adrian's mouth tightened. Then we make you impossible to erase. That night, Eli stayed late, not to clean, not to fix. The history that fought back. The final board meeting of the quarter felt like a funeral. Not for a person, for a department. 2 stacks of paper sat at the head of the long table. On the left, Facilities Restructure Proposal Final Draft prepared by Marlowe. On the right, a slimmer packet, no title page, just a cover sheet that read Operational Integrity Records, compiled by Elijah Herrera. The chair adjusted his glasses. We have 2 competing narratives here. One from the CFO's office recommending consolidation of all-night operations under daytime management. One from, he looked down, Mr. Herrera at Mr. Hale's request. Adrian spoke before anyone could dismiss it. Not at my request. At the buildings, Marlowe's tone was ice. With respect, these anecdotes. They're not anecdotes, Eli said. He was standing now, hands flat on the table, voice steady. They're records, every one of them backed by timestamps, repair logs, and in some cases, he tapped the stack. Photos your risk system never logged. He handed the first page to the board member on his right. A photo of a warped breaker panel dated 2 years ago. Unreported fire hazard, Eli said. Caught at 3:17 a.m. by a crew you want to erase. Next page, a flooded sub-basement. Unreported pump failure. $3 million in potential tenant losses avoided. 2:42 a.m. Next, the cracked heat exchanger valve. Unreported. Well, you get the pattern. Marlowe cut in. You're cherry-picking incidents to dramatize a function that could be... I'm not cherry-picking, Eli said louder now. I'm showing you what happens when the lights go out, and the only people left in the building are the ones who know how to keep it breathing. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a single photograph, the one Adrian had shown him in the basement. A young man in coveralls standing in the half-light. My uncle, Luis Herrera. He died here 30 years ago because a cost-saving measure skipped a safety shutdown. The room stilled. Eli set the photo in the center of the table. Erase night ops, and you're not just making the same mistake. You're proving you never learn from it. Silence stretched. Somewhere, a pen clicked. The chair cleared his throat. We will take both submissions under consideration. The vote took less than a minute. 7 for preserving night operations as a distinct function. 5 against. Adrian didn't smile. But Eli could see the shift in his shoulders, like a man who'd been holding a door shut against a storm and finally felt at ease. Marlowe